Hey, again, another video. Let me look up here. You recognize that country, right? Guyana. It's in South America. But there's something really interesting. I'm going to talk about in Guyana well, not really about Guyana per se, but I'm just showing you this country of Guyana since, we're Caribbean folks, right? And for those of you who are not from the Caribbean, I'm not talking about Ghana in West Africa. I'm talking about Guyana in South America. Well, for most of the audience, you probably know that Guyana is down in South America. But what if I told you something rather interesting? We know about Guyana and we've probably heard of French Guyana. But here's something I want to point out, okay? Just stay tuned. So, what if I told you that there were actually, or was once, 5 Guyanas? And here you can see them. The green, that was once known as Portuguese Guyana. That's part of Brazil today. Right next to it, in blue, we have French Guyana, which is still there today and part of the overseas territories of France. So it's really France in South America. Then next to that, you have Suriname. But back in the day, Suriname was called Dutch Guyana. And that tells you all that you need to know. Right next to it, in the peach color, you have Guyana, the country I first mentioned before, but once upon a time that was called British Guyana. And to the left, you have a portion of Venezuela, or eastern Venezuela, that was called Spanish Guyana. As a matter of fact, I think that area out there, it's a portion of Brazil that I think is still called Guyanas. So again, there were once 5 Guyanas: Portuguese Guyana, French Guyana, Dutch Guyana, British Guyana, and Spanish Guyana. And there's something else interesting that I'm going to mention. So just keep looking. So those countries that I mentioned, and of course the French territory of French Guyana, they all sit on a geological foundation, a geological formation that is some of the oldest rock on the face of the earth, going back about 2 billion years. They are propped up on a platform known as the Guyana Shield. Again, keep that in mind, the Guyana Shield. That area is like from another planet, the way that it looks. It has mountains, but it's not the mountains you think of. We tend to think of mountains as being more shaped like a cone. It doesn't have that down there. It has crazy diversity. And on the Guyana Shield, on the southern part of it, or the lower part of it, it then drops down into the Amazon basin. So it is really an interesting place. So it has these weird mountains, looking mountains. It has rainforest. It has particular diversity, animals that you won't see in other parts of the world. But that's the Guyana Shield. So you have some of the oldest rock here, like I mentioned, on the face of the earth. The area is rich in things like diamonds and all of those different types of things. So the Guyana Shield basically is a platform that all of these countries, these 5 Guyanas, basically sit on. And you will see something else, because one of the most famous places in the Guyana Shield was actually featured in a Disney animated movie. I think the movie was called Up. You'll see that mountain here. There's the mountain. That mountain is called Mount Roraima. Really interesting mountain. It's rather famous, It's somewhat known around the world for geography buffs and people who are into mountains and all that type of stuff. The interesting thing about this mountain is that it serves as a border for 3 countries. If you go up on top of that mountain, a portion of it sits in Brazil, a portion of it sits in Guyana, and the majority of the mountain actually sits in the country of Venezuela. So this is one of the mountains, and this is what they look like. They're called tepuis. And these mountains are featured in the area of the Guyana Shield. So now that you know a little bit more about this stuff, you take a different look at that area down there, okay? Thanks for watching.